Hello, my name is Mike. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about Unexpected Season 5, Episode 9. And we start off with Kylan and Jason. Kylan is in labor and she has been in labor the whole day. And she's in a lot of pain. And they decide to go to the birthing center. And they're doing the birthing center because they want to do a natural birth with no medicine. And in the confessional, Kylan and Jason say that being in the birthing center is a good thing for them because they include Jason because he likes to be included in everything. They call it being included. I call it being in control. And going back to this scene, they do an in-person confessional with the midwives, Heather and Rebecca, and they believe Kylan's in labor and she declined a cervical exam, which a cervical exam is where midwives take their fingers into your cervix to see how dilated you are and how far along you are. And they don't know why she declined a cervical exam, but if I had to take a lucky guess, it probably had something to do with Jason. But they say they're going to try to make Kylan as most comfortable as possible and just get the baby here. And Jason is really excited to deliver the baby because they're going to do a water birth, which a water birth is where the mother and the father or whoever the parents are get into the tub and basically the other person helps deliver the baby in the tub. And Kylan is still in a lot of pain, so when one of the midwives comes to the room, they ask if she's ready to get into the tub. She looks at Jason and asks Jason, even though it's not his executive decision and you're the one in pain, he doesn't have to feel anything, so I'm not sure why she would ask him. But anyways, she ultimately decides to get into the tub. And he says he's just ready for the baby to get here within like 30 minutes because he's starting to get anxious and start biting off his nails. Which that's not how labor works. This just makes me aware that he has no idea what he's talking about. Even though we already knew this, but it just continues to show more signs on top of more signs. But anyways, when they finally get into the tub, because Jason does get into the tub with Kylan as well, the midwife comes back in the room and asks, do you want us to do a cervical exam, just to check, because that's how they have to find out if the baby's coming or not, or just where the baby is in general. They can also tell by if Kylan can feel the baby, but Kylan cannot feel the baby, so the best way right now for them is just to do a cervical exam. Kylan once again looks at Jason. He says, I don't know, because he obviously doesn't know what he's talking about, so the midwife leaves them to make a decision. And going to the confessional with the midwives say they have a lot of teen parents come in, and each birth is different depending on their circumstances, and they say they usually go smooth if that person has a plan, and they're also willing to compromise depending on the situation. I don't know how well that will work for Jason because he's not really a compromise type of person, but hopefully it plays out smooth. Next, we move on to Tiara and Dee. She just got back from her C-section a couple of hours ago and she's still very sore. And she has to ask Dee to hand her diapers and hand her the baby because it hurts to get out of bed and it's just miserable for her. And she FaceTimed Melissa's her mother and Tiara so they can see the baby, and everyone loves the baby. Melissa thinks the baby is just so cute and looks like a doll. And in the confession with Tiara, she says that Inslee is so effing cute, which she corrected herself a couple of different times because she feels like she shouldn't use a curse word to describe her niece. She also says that she can tell that Inslee is going to give Tiara a hard time just by the way she makes faces and stuff like that, which I'm not sure how she got all of that off like a day-old baby, but people love giving newborn babies personalities before they can even walk, talk, or anything like that. But anyways, in the confessional with all three of them, Melissa says that Tiara was all drugged up, and Tiara asked her what drugs she was on, and she says the good ones, and she doesn't really remember anything. She doesn't remember FaceTiming anyone, but she'll go and look on her phone and see videos that she made, but she doesn't remember making those videos. So whatever she was on, they definitely had her feeling good. Going back to the scene, they're really excited to bring baby Inslee home, and Dee says he's worried that Ella may not react well to the newborn since she's never really been around newborn babies, so it can either go really good or really bad. But they're also happy that they're alone and they're not crowded with everyone before the reality sets in that they have 2 kids. 2 kids is a lot. I know we don't think it's a lot, but 2 kids is a lot to handle, especially when it's a toddler and it's a newborn and you're also dealing with a C-section scar. So hopefully when she gets home and it's not too hectic. Next, we move on to Emerson and Mason. Tension is high at home because Emerson spent a week and a couple of days at Mason's house, and Erica did not hear from her all the time, and she just came back home and sat on the couch like it was nothing. But the reason why Emerson went over there because they were just on edge with the strict rules Erica has for Mason and how she can't go into her bed, and they decided to go into Emerson's bed anyways, and they got caught because Erica went into Emerson's room just to see how she was doing, and check up on her and the baby. And that's when she saw them. And in the confessional with Erica inside, it says their house and their rules, and if you can't respect that and follow them, then there's no need for you to be there. And when you are there, you need to respect and follow the rules. Sai says that they need to come to the reality of the situation, and I feel like they're just being overbearing at this point. Like, the baby's already here, it's just time to accept it and make it work and compromise. And I guess that they feel like they've already compromised a lot because they didn't want Emerson doing any of this stuff, but then life isn't ideal either, so for you just to put weird strict rules on them, it doesn't really make any sense to me. Erica also has a problem with Ernie, Mason's dad, because he was the one who came and picked them up, but Ernie was only worried about the well-being of Mason, Mateo, and Emerson, and just wanted everyone to cool down and regroup, and then they could come back and talk about it later. But it did not play out like that. And going back to the scene with Erica's just going off with this rant to Emerson about how she doesn't feel like Mason's home is safe, with his mother being in recovery from drugs, and she feels like it's unstable, and she feels like her home is more stable and it's loving, it's supportive, and they have boundaries and rules. Even though there's a fine line between having boundaries and rules, and I hate how Erica makes it seem like her home's all holy and nothing ever goes on, it's just perfect. Mason's home may have its problems, but yours has its own too, and I feel like there's no reason to judge someone else's home you have never even been in. And Emerson is just over it. She feels like she's just somebody who she doesn't even know, and she feels like if she would just take the time to get to know Mason's mom, she wouldn't feel that way. And she also feels like there's no reasoning with Erica, and there's just no talking about anything. And Emerson doesn't think she's in any harm's way being in Mason's house. But Erica doesn't think Emerson understands her perspective as a mother, because she's not doing this to harm her or to make her life difficult. Just wants Emerson to be safe, and that's it. And this is why I feel like communication is very important, and the rules should be a mutual agreement thing and just not a one-sided thing, because I think Erica's rules come from Erica's own trauma and the own things she's been through in her own life or things she's observed. So I think she just wants to help Emerson avoid that, and I get it, she's coming from a loving place, but there's a difference between wanting to make sure nothing happens to your child and just being controlling, and this is being controlling in my opinion. Hopefully they can find balance and a mutual agreement. Next, we went to Lilly and Lawrence. Lilly and Lawrence have to move behind them, and now they're settling into their new home and trying to adjust a new life, especially since this is the first time Lilly has been with her kids alone, just by herself. And in the confessional, she talks about how her day goes, and how she gets up very early in the morning, she cooks breakfast, lets the kids play, clean up, then she cooks lunch, let them play, cleans up lunch after they eat, takes them outside, let them come and play some more, then she cooks dinner, gives them baths, and then goes to bed, and just basically do the same thing every single day. She calls her mom for a lot of stuff because she's never lived on her own, and this is the first time she really had to do on her own without any help. And in the confessional with her mom says that she tries to put herself in Lily's shoes so she can see it from her perspective and try to help her the best way she can. And she also had kids really young, so she understands what Lily is going through. And Lily sounds and looks very unhappy and just miserable, and she says it's very hard for her because she's just like a mom 24/7. And Lily's mom says that she doesn't think a lot of people know what comes with being a mom and what they go through. And Lily says that men don't really understand what they go through because when they come home, they eat, they shower, go to bed, and their day's just over. But for moms, it's not like that. Lily didn't realize how much she was signing up for when she moved out, and her and Lawrence also have been fighting more ever since they moved out. And the confession with Lily and Lawrence, Lily says that when he comes home, he chooses to pick a fight with her, and Lawrence says that everything is a mess, and Lily tells him, then you clean it, and he says, then what are you doing all day? She says, taking care of kids, giving baths, feeding kids, cleaning them up, breastfeeding, cooking 3 meals a day. And I think Lawrence has this expectation of what a stay-at-home mom does, but that's not what it really is, because being a mother and taking care of kids is a full-time job, especially when you're at home doing it. That's what you do all day. So no, you may not find the time to clean up the toys and whatever else, because there's always children around, so there's not always going to be time for stuff like that. Next, we move back around to Kylan and Jason. Kylan has been in labor for 14.5 hours and she's in a lot of pain, and as we can see, Jason is just being annoying, as you can see, coming at like a 7-year-old on a road trip. And he's just eating acting like it's nothing happening and not really being there for her. In a different scene with Kylan's parents, they have to get updates through Heidi to see what's going on with Kylan, because Jason's really not saying anything to them. And in the confessional with her parents, they feel like Jason is putting this idea into her head that home birth is the way to go or whatever. And this isn't something that, they think she really wants to do. They basically just say the same thing that they said in the same episode, which a little off point, but I recognize TLC used some of the same clips that they used episode in this episode. Anyways, going back to the scene, they want to be there for Kylan, especially her mother, because this is something she wants to have a bond with Kylan about. But obviously Jason isn't allowing that, and they say that, hopefully nothing goes wrong, but if something does go wrong, they will be the first ones up there. And going back to scene with Kylan and Jason, Kylan's in so much pain that she is exhausted, and the midwives offer an IV, and it's just gonna give her energy to help her keep going through this. And Jason says she just needs to eat something or drink something, and he offers her a literal fry, and she's in so much pain that she probably can't even eat. It's the point of the IV, which I believe you can also throw up while you're in labor, so if that's not going to help, if she's throwing up also in pain and not able to keep food down. So that's the point of the IV. It's liquids and it just helps you keep going. Jason doesn't want to do that, even though he's not the one in labor, and I will repeatedly say that because it's so crazy to me that he has so much control when he's not the one in pain or have to go through any of this. He says he thinks that she can tough it out and she's just being dramatic and she's really not in that much pain. I just want to go through the TV and scream at him, or I don't know, do something. This is not about him. And your girlfriend's in pain, for the love of God, like, let her do what's best for her, not what's best for you. And he believes that the IV is drugs. In the confessional with the midwives see what's going on with their relationship, and it's not one of mutual agreement and interest. It's just about Jason's opinion, how he feels. And at first they thought, it was a good relationship and it was something that they both agreed upon on, but obviously not. I say it's really hard to see Kylan in pain, because it's one thing for her not to want to, but to have someone else make that exclusive decision that's for her, it's really hard to see. Next, we move back around to Tiara, and Tiara's coming home from her C-section, and she's in a lot of pain because she literally just got cut open. And when she gets home, Layla and Ella are fighting over like a toy animal or whatever. But once everybody does settle down, or really just the kid, they sit down and enjoy the baby. And while Ella is holding baby Inslee, Tiara wants to hold the baby, so she goes to get the baby from Ella, and Ella does not want to give the baby back. She's just wanting to hold her and play with her, I guess. And in the confessional with Tiara and Dee, Tiara says that she worries that Ella may want to overhelp and do things she can't do, and she's afraid she may overreact, I guess, and hurt Ella's feelings. But then they bring Ella in, and she's sitting on the couch, and they want her to say Inslee's name, who is this? She says Sissy, but they're like, what's her real name? And Ella is very uninterested. She's on her phone playing, and Tiara says, you're gonna make her cry, you're making her sad. Then she says, I want her to cry. So I thought that was really funny, really cute scene, which something that is a way off track, but why didn't they just put this all in like one scene of Tiara? I didn't feel like this needed to be splitted up into two scenes. I don't know. I just really felt like it was unnecessary. But back to the episode. Lastly, we move on to Kylan and Jason. Kylan is still in labor, and the midwives check her blood pressure, and her pulse, and it's higher than usual, and they want to take her to the hospital because they can offer her more care there, because there's just certain things that they can't do at the birthing center. And Jason goes on to say that they came too early, even though they didn't. She's in labor and she's ready to get this baby out. The reason why he's saying that is because he doesn't want to go to the hospital, and he just wanted this like natural birth thing. And they end up telling them that they no longer have anything for them, and they end up sending them home because Jason doesn't want to go to the hospital. And Kylan and Jason end up going to the bathroom, and Jason saying, "Oh, this place is terrible, it's trash, and we're not going to the hospital." And Kylan is like, "Yeah, we are. Are you trying to kill me?" And he's just so opposed to going to the hospital. I don't know what he heard about the hospital that made him feel this way, but Kylan's like, "I'm going to the hospital regardless." And once they leave the building and they go outside, like, "No, we're going home. You're fine. You're alright." And she's like, "I am not fine. I need to go to the hospital. I'm ready to get this child out of me." He's like, "No, we're going home." And Kylan says that if you don't take me to the hospital, I'll find somebody who will. And he's like, "Don't start," and just all that. But he doesn't understand like what really birth and labor is, because he says in the confessional at a point in time during this segment that Kylan was not in labor because her water wasn't broken. And the producer has to tell them, labor does not start because the water breaks. Labor starts when you start having contractions. And he's like, "Oh, scratch that," and he wrote it off like it was nothing. Like, he thinks he knows all about this like labor birth stuff, and he doesn't. I've never given birth. I've never been in a situation of that yet. Hopefully I never have to be, and I know more than him. He's the one who's having the child and the one who has done all this research and stuff, but it's obviously not obvious. But in the confessional with just Jason goes on to say that they wish they would have done the home birth and just stayed in this basement. I'm glad they didn't, because it would have ended a lot worse. And I just can't really express like how angry I am at this whole episode, and how Kylan did not get the proper care she deserved, and how Jason just wrote off everything like it was no big deal. Like, this is genuinely concerning for me, and I really hope Kylan did have a safe delivery, and I believe we will see it in the next episode. But like, this doesn't get any worse than this, and if it does get worse, I do not want to see it. And while I'm talking about Kylan and Jason, I would just like to say I will no longer be going into deep detail about their segments and just their whole situation in general. And I understand that it's reality TV and that it's supposed to show people's true side of their lives and show what's really going on. But where are the lines drawn? Because at the end of the day, Kylan and Jason's relationship is a really terrible relationship. And it's not a terrible relationship like, oh, they may argue and fight over stupid stuff and stuff like that. Like, no, this is a serious, dangerous thing. You have to ask yourself, where are the lines drawn when it comes to reality TV? Because I know personally, I watch reality TV for a laugh here and there, or to find relatability or whatever, or just to see a side of life I haven't experienced, and I hope not to experience, but see it through other people's perspective. I do not want to see stuff like this on TV. And it also makes you ask, like, why didn't the producers step in and realize that this is a safety danger situation and they need to help Kylan move herself out of it? I'm not sure if they're under some type of contract where they can't interfere with scenes or whatever. But whatever it is, I just think this was terrible. I don't want to see Kylan and Jason on the next season of Unexpected, because this is sad, this is dangerous. Like I said, I won't be going into deep detail about it because I want to watch this. I'm not saying I'm going to skip over their segments or not give a brief descriptions of what's going on, but I will no longer be going into deep detail and analyzing them, simply for the fact that this is sad. I don't want to have to analyze this, and I really hope Kylan does find safety and realize that this is not a good relationship for her. But I hope you all can understand why I don't want to do that and just not be upset. But that's really all I had to say. I give this episode a 1 out of 10 purely for the fact that the producers or nobody stepped in when Kylan was in danger, and I just don't agree with that. But if that would never happen, it would have gotten a good rating. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe if you want, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and bye.